Alrighty, so before we are going to get into a very busy night of MLS action, where we're going to have 11 games that's going to be taking place tonight, and there's going to be at one point of tonight's MLS midweek action where there's going to be 7 games simultaneously playing. Let's do a quick news of the week episode, and let's get straight into the first topic, which has pretty much been the main talking point around MLS for the past couple of days, and that, of course, is the RSL situation. So, as we know, back on Thursday, RSL owner Dell Loy Hansen made a very extreme remark on a radio show that eventually he was under heavy scrutiny. That on Friday, he basically was forced to take an absence of leave as MLS was ready to investigate in terms of this matter. Now, on Sunday, he basically announced that he was going to sell the team, and actually this is where I get into my second point, where we already have heard some notable names that potentially is going to buy RSL from Dell Loy Hansen. One of them, of course, is Josie Outdoor, that have already mentioned that he, along with a group, is thinking about buying Dell Loy or buying RSL from Dell Loy Hansen. The Houston Texan defender J.J. Watt has also said that he's interested of buying RSL from Dell Loy Hansen. And lastly, Utah Jazz owner Larry Miller has also expressed his interest in terms of buying RSL from Mr. Hansen. Now, it's going to take a couple of days until we realize who exactly is going to be interested in buying this team, and that whether or not if this is even going to, if either of these guys or maybe all of these guys are going to have like a combined effort in terms of buying RSL from Dell Loy Hansen. But either way, it's pretty clear that Dell Loy Hansen is not going to be an RSL owner anytime soon after the announcement that he made on Sunday. And then on Tuesday, it was announced that RSL chief business owner Andrew Caroll will be joining Dell Loy Hansen as another top executive officer that will be taking an absence of leave. And this kind of move just tells me that it is pretty clear that not only the fact that RSL is trying to do their best to deal with this situation and deal with this bad apple that is going on back on Thursday after some of the very controversial statement that their owner made, but it's pretty clear that they are dealing with a situation that has pretty much been evolved for the past couple of years, and that is the culture toxicity that is going on with this organization. And I believe the Athletic have even mentioned how workers of this RSL organization has expressed the fact that the culture of this team and just the working environment was very toxic under both of these guys, and that if this is of course going to be the case, I won't be surprised if we're going to see some more top rank official from this organization that is going to have to take absence leave or forced to resign their position, because this is something that, you know, if you have a very toxic environment that is going on with your club, it is pretty clear that you have to do something, and that, you know, getting rid of your owner might be the starter step, but it's pretty clear that they need to maybe think about doing a clean house, and that, yeah, this organization, I think, in these next couple months will definitely look very, very different, not only with a new owner, but there could definitely be some new kind of top rank official on this team after what's going on with the current regime, and that there seems to be a very toxic environment that is going on with the current regime. But moving away from the RSL talk to kind of talk about transfer rumors. Now, Inter Miami is reported to be close to signing Juventus striker Gonzalo Higuain. Now, I mentioned last week that, you know, I feel like, you know, if Inter Miami was going to finally sign that world-class striker that they've been looking for, I feel like Luis Suarez is the better option than Gonzalo Higuain. And I'm going to still stick with that word that I feel like they probably should have signed Luis Suarez instead of Gonzalo Higuain, mainly because Suarez, you can clearly see he can definitely still be a guy that is going to be a good goal scorer, and that I think if he does come into this league, he's going to be really, really up there to try to challenge for the Golden Boot every year that he is going to be in this league. Whereas for Higuain, you know, he's still a decent kind of striker, but he has definitely kind of showed that father time age, and that his productivity stability in front of goals have definitely not been as good as he was a couple of years back. And also, I feel like if Gonzalo Higuain was going to come to MLS, I thought DC United was probably the perfect option because his brother Federico Higuain is currently the player coach there. So it would make sense the fact that he would decide to join his brother at DC United and playing alongside each other. But that doesn't seem like it is going to be the case, and that doesn't seem like DC United is interested of doing that, and that instead Inter Miami is probably going to do that. But let me know in the comments below if you're an Inter Miami fan. What do you think of this? And my opinion to this, as I said, I feel like they could have got Luis Suarez, and that Suarez is probably a better option for Higuain. But let me know in the comments below if you think that, of course, is the case. Now, Atlanta United have recently agreed to sell Pity Martinez to Saudi club Al Nassr for $18 million. And I think this is not a big surprise, the fact that Atlanta are decided to cash in that money that they, of course use for Pity Martinez and sell him to another club. Although this is not a European club that I was envisioned that what Atlanta United and kind of just their philosophy of how they develop these young South American players and eventually sell them off to Europe kind of envisioned. But in the end, they still get a big chunk of money. And I thought Pity Martinez, his time with Atlanta United has been kind of turbulent, to say the least. I mean, there's been a lot of ups and downs kind of period that Pity Martinez have gone through with Atlanta United, and I just feel like since Atlanta is in a transitional period and that they clearly need some money to try to get some player to really restart this kind of rebuild that they are in right now, that I feel like when they saw that there was a Saudi club able to buy one of the players that they were going to eventually sell them off to Europe for a big sum of money, they of course decide to take that. And also, anytime when an MLS club is asked to basically sell their player for $18 million, it is going to be very hard to try to say no to that. I mean, that is a huge sum of money that Atlanta United is going to get, although I think this kind of money is going to be right around the same amount that they paid for Pity Martinez, so in some way they didn't really gain anything out of this deal, but at least they kind of avoid cutting huge losses of potentially either just holding on to Pity Martinez way too long and that his value is going to drop because he's already 27 years old, and that I feel like if this is kind of the age where it's really now or never if you want to go to Europe, and knowing the fact that looks like it's not going to be the case for him, and that for Atlanta it's kind of a matter of time before they of course sell him before his value drop, that they've decided to kind of pull the trigger, and now they hope that they can use that $18 million to really refurbish their squad that clearly needs to have some refurbish with the way how things have gone with this team. Now, moving on into other transfer rumors, and this is kind of the part of the show where I'm about to talk about some very strange and doesn't make any sense kind of transfer rumor. And we start off with the Houston Dynamo, our report to link with Matteo Benjamic, I think that's how you pronounce, from Instituto. And the reason why I think this move doesn't make any sense is because he is a striker. And striker is the last position that the Dynamo really need, and that unless if this is kind of a replacement for either Mauro Manotas or Albert Elise that there potentially is going to sell, then I just don't understand why do they need a number 9. And plus, didn't they already sign Ariel Lassiter, who is a number 9 that came out of the Costa Rican League a couple of weeks before, and we thought that was going to be the replacement for either Manotas or Elise. So yeah, doesn't really make sense why they need to have another striker, consider they literally just signed another number 9 just a couple of weeks before. Now, NYCFC, they are linked with another center back. This time it is an Argentine center back from Benfica by the name of Christian Lema, although I heard he hasn't really break out into the regular Benfica team, and that he's been on loan in Argentina for the past couple of years. Well, actually, he was in Argentina before he made the move to Benfica, and that it doesn't seem like it has worked out. Now, the reason why I'm going to also put this as a move that doesn't make sense at all is because I said last week where NYCFC was rumored with a center back, and that I just feel like it doesn't make any sense why they need to have a center back when defense is the least of their issue. I'm going to say it again in this situation. I feel like they clearly need to find some attacker and especially find a replacement for Maxi Morales. I mean, it is pretty clear that this team is still heavily rely on Maxi Morales, but the problem is Maxi Morales is not getting any younger. I mean, he's now 33 years old, and you can see that for the past couple of years that, you know, especially just this year alone, that injuries have started to kind of catch up to him, and if he is going to continue to suffer some injury issue, then it's going to take longer for him to recover. So I think if NYCFC is going to potentially get a player either during this transfer window or in the off season, it's better be a guy that will replace Maxi Morales, or else I just don't understand why do they really need to find another center back when, again, defense is the least of this issue, and that when you look at this season, their defense has been really solid. The only issue of why they haven't won a lot of games is because their attack have basically done nothing without Maxi Morales. Now, DC United is rumored to acquire Everton midfielder Gylfi Sigurdsson, and now we're kind of getting back into the signing that actually does make sense, and this is one of them, with them potentially getting Everton midfielder Gylfi Sigurdsson. I know Sigurdsson, he has kind of had an up and down kind of spell with Everton, but before he joined Everton, he was an absolute stud when he was with Swansea, and that I feel like if DC United is going to get him, I think he could be a very decent player for this DC United team, and especially they need some help in terms of the midfield and going forward on the attacking too. I think Gylfi Sigurdsson is going to be a good option, and we shall see whether or not if that is going to be the case. Now, DC have already tried to fix their goal scoring problem by signing Venezuelan striker Gilman Rivas. Now, he was in the Turkish Super League, although he was actually playing with a team that got relegated in the Turkish Super League, and that I think he only scored like 1 goal in his 7 appearances with that club. Although they also said that he's been pretty much scoring double-digit goal when he was in the Saudi League before he went to the Turkish Super League, which, you know, yeah, the Saudi League, if you're scoring double-digit goal, then it basically doesn't really tell you a lot, because I mean, you know, when you have a guy that basically only scored 1 goal in 7 appearances in the Turkish Super League, and that basically was with the team that got relegated, that doesn't really give DC United fans a lot of excitement that this is the striker that is going to fix our goal scoring problem. However, I could be wrong, and that he could basically come to this league and just completely lights up the league and completely solve the issue that DC United has, which is they just don't have a number 9 or anybody that can consistently score goals. But it's not looking good with his past track record, and that we shall see whether or not if that is going to be the case. And that I'm assuming maybe he's going to be a starter of this team, and he's going to start over Ola Kamara, that has been a really big disappointment for DC United this season. Now, moving on in terms of the next news is that it's finally happened. Minnesota United has officially signed Emmanuel Bebelo Reynoso, and that this announcement happened just 2 days ago. And all I'll say about this is that it's better late than never in terms of getting Emmanuel Reynoso, and especially the issue that the Loons has been having going forward on the attack. I'm so glad that this deal has finally got over the line. Now, that being said, there is a bit of a bad news in terms of this news. And the bad news in terms of this news is that he probably will not be available for the Loons, at least for maybe 2 weeks, because, you know, he's going to be arriving in the United States pretty soon. And that once he arrives in the U.S., I'm pretty sure he's going to have to go through that 2-week self-isolation isolation period before he can, of course, join the team on training. And we already saw how when Inter Miami decided to sign Matt Tweedy, and that seemed like Matt Tweedy is going to have to also undergo that same circumstances, going through this 2-week self-isolation period before he can join the actual team. This is going to be the same case with Reynoso. So at the earliest, I don't think we're going to see Reynoso with the Loons, maybe at least in mid-September. And I really hope that this attack eventually will get up, because I don't want to wait until mid-September when I finally can see this attack being decent. And that I don't want us, by the time when we finally do get Reynoso in this team, that this team could be finding themselves slipping down the Western Conference and are really desperate in terms of needing a guy to bring some fresh injective idea in terms of this attack. Now, moving on in terms of the next news is that DC United midfielder Felipe is going to undergo season-ending ACL surgery. Now, I know when people saw this news, they probably think this is just karma for Felipe after all the dirty move that he has been making throughout his career. But as much as I know Felipe is not the cleanest player and that he has made some very dirty move in the past, you never like to see a guy that unfortunately is going to go down with a season-ending ACL surgery. And that for DC United, as much as I know I've been kind of hard on them, saying that this has just been a terrible year for them and that their offense just not getting going whatsoever, and all those moves that they've been made during this offseason has just been a complete flop. Well, in some way that's kind of true, but at the same time you also got to look at how DC United is battling some crippling injury in terms of both on the attack and also in the midfield too, and that Felipe, unfortunately, is now the latest victim in terms of a player that is going to be out for the season. I know Paul Arriola is another guy that suffered a similar injury to this and had to undergo a similar surgery. And that I also know that one of their big signing this offseason, Edison Flores, who I actually didn't know that he didn't even play in the MLS, is back tournament, and maybe that makes sense why DC was not very good on the attack whatsoever. Well, he's going to be out for a little bit a while because he also suffered a long time injury. So yeah, this is definitely tough for Ben Olsen's team that seemed just back-breaking injury and just long-term back-breaking injury that has gone on with his midfield and attack. And like I said, for DC, they need to eventually find a way to replace those guys, because as much as I know they're suffering these back-breaking injury and maybe they can use this as an excuse, I don't think so. I mean, I'm pretty sure if this team continue to not get the resort, then Ben Olsen is definitely going to be on the very hot seat. And if there is a coach that I think could be the first one to be fired this season, Ben Olsen might potentially be the one, mainly because of how many DC United fans really dislike him, and that they of course eventually want him to lead this team after such a long spell with this DC United team for a bit. I think he's been with this team for like 10 years now and is one of the longest serving head coach. But yeah, we shall see whether or not eventually he is going to be the first one that is going to be out as the head coach this season. And then finally, in terms of this news of the week, is that Austin FC have officially sold out their season ticket membership. And I like to take this moment to apologize to Austin FC and especially the supporter of this team. And that if you remember what I did, I think all the way back when Austin FC was announced that they were coming into the league, and I think that was maybe November of last year when it was officially announced. And I made a video where I criticized the fact that why in the world did the league decided to basically grant Anthony Precourt wishes of getting a team in Austin FC. And that actually, that part I will not take back and not apologize. The fact that I still feel like this is just wrong. The fact that Austin FC have got a team mainly because Anthony Precourt, who originally tried to move Columbus to Austin, failed. That he basically had a plan B and just decided to ask MLS to have a team there in Austin. And there's no doubt that there is a reason why this is now still one of the most hated teams in MLS. But that being said, I also was critical in terms of talking about how there's going to be no fans that actually shows up in this in Austin FC game, and that I also give example of the past USL team of how the failure of attendance in those teams, and also talk about how the Texas teams are among the lowest in terms of the attendance ranking in the league. But it seemed like that has just all those points that I've been saying has completely proven wrong, as they of course have just sold out their season ticket membership, and that I guess maybe the one reason why this is happening, and I probably should have thought of this when I did that video a couple of months ago, is that Austin FC is the only professional team in that city. And when you have a city where there's only one professional team, it's usually pretty easy in terms of just supporting this team only, and you're going to gain some fans, and you don't have to face competition of other teams around your city to potentially get some fans in the team. I mean, the only competition that Austin FC might have is not even a professional team. It's actually the Texas Longhorns, but even then, that only takes place during college football season in September and November, and that for the rest of the season, they basically have no competition from other college or professional team around that area to eventually gain fans. So that kind of makes sense why there's a lot of hype around this team, and that, yeah, congratulations to Austin FC in terms of selling their season ticket, and I can't wait to see how they are going to do in this league. And probably the most interesting game that I cannot wait for this Austin FC team is going to play is going to be when they play the Columbus Crew, and that is going to be a very, you know, that there's going to be hatred toward both fan base, and you know Columbus fans would want their team to beat Austin as much as possible, and kind of just give Anthony Precourt a very sweet taste of what karma does feel like when they were trying to mess their team originally. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for my news of the week. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of these news, and if there's any important news that I have missed for the past couple of days, let me know in the comments below. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.